called the Raymond Barton Project. Ray's had a great life in entertainment and otherwise, and we're here to tell a story. All right.
So I guess we have to start off with where it all began. And for me, I was born in England in 1948. But growing up with my mom and dad, Doreen and Sam Barton, there was always music in the house. There was always some kind of a theatrical show going on. My mom, especially Doreen, had a great love for the theater and for music. Artists like Judy Garland, Sammy Davis Jr., those type of artists were what she really gravitated towards. So at a very early on, we were always involved with music, production shows. My brother David went to the Goodman School at the Art Institute of Chicago in theater back in the middle 60s. My sister Beverly did work for several years as in high school in drama departments. I also worked in drama departments. And so after graduating school in 1967 and Churchill College in 1969, I got involved in lots of different areas. And I first started off working in Chicago for a company called Grand Stage Lighting Company. And Grand Stage at the time was doing a lot of the lighting for a lot of very well-known national artists of today. I can remember going in and delivering some equipment to the Erie Crown Theater in Chicago, and tuning up on stage was Carole King, who was most gracious and sat around and talked with the crew and all of us for quite some time.
Was that your first meeting with a celebrity, with Carole King, or?
It would. Let me see. I would say Carole King was one of the first. We also over the years, my brother and I, having a theater in Kalamazoo, Michigan, we met lots of folks. Being in the hotel business, it was kind of like I would sometimes have national acts stay at my hotels. Michael Bolton stayed with us in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And over the years, Ray Charles stayed with me in Baltimore, Maryland. Then I had the opportunity for 3 years to work at Carowinds Theme Park in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the early 80s, where the venue I helped manage, it was called the Carowinds Palladium, where in about 120-day period would do about 45 to 50 major concerts. So
that's amazing.
It would not be unusual to be doing the Doobie Brothers on a Friday, to be doing Bob Hope on a Saturday, and then Charlie Daniels on a Sunday. So we were exposed to many national acts at that time. The producer for those shows was a gentleman called Wilson Howard. Wilson Howard is currently with Live Nation, one of the largest producers and owners of venues throughout the United States and also in Europe. So there was this overlapping involvement. Even when I left Carowinds and went into the hotel industry, there was always this situation where we would have lots of different bands stay with us. And then after getting married in 1990, my wife and I developed and started working a catering company where we ironically ended up doing backstage catering. So Mary did catering for Lee Greenwood and Sawyer Brown, Dina Carter, the Platters, the Average White Band. So we just got involved in lots of areas where we never thought we would be working together. But the funny thing about it all is how really basic and simple it was working backstage. You know, people like James Taylor, Rick Springfield, Jefferson Airplane. I mean, all these bands were so really mellow and really so kind. And back then, in the middle,
there wasn't much of an ego then?
No, not really. You have more of egos with the guys that thought they were stars that really weren't.
The wannabes, right?
The wannabes,
yeah.
Or the semi-has-beens.
The people go on their way out of the business?
On their way out. The ones that were going from playing 10,000-seat venues to playing 3,000-seat
bars and stuff,
3,000-seat venues. But over the years, you know, it's really been my pleasure to have been involved with lots of different bands. What made what we did, especially at Carowinds, was with the backstage catering and everything, was very specialized catering. Most of the time when the bands came in, they would want your local fare. You know, if you come to Memphis,
they would want like barbecue and stuff like that.
They would want barbecue. Jimmy Buffett would call ahead of time to make sure that we were doing and making the homemade ice cream that we used to make at Carowinds. We would always...
What was your best flavor at Carowinds for the ice cream?
Probably... Jimmy Buffett liked almost a key lime pie type thing.
Cool, like a sherbet then?
Yeah, like a sherbet.
Yeah.
But it was really ironic. You know, some of the groups would require certain type of wines and everything backstage. And
do they have like long lists of like what they needed to perform?
We have like what we call a rider. You know, I do remember the old story. I don't remember who the band was, but one of them did ask for, you know, to only have the M&Ms with the chocolate.
Like the Ozzy story from Wayne's
that is kind of an absolute true story. Or else when it came to water, you know, they only wanted Avion.
Oh yeah, only the best.
So sometimes we'd go ahead if we ran out of Avion and one of the artists
Avion bottle.
We just take the Avion bottle and pour the water in there, and they'd walk out here going, "Oh, you know, there's just nothing like, you know, an Avion."
Yeah,
you know,
it's the best, yeah.
And we give them the old peace sign, and you know, right on, buddy. You know, I mean, you know what
that's
you
great.
Want. But that's a true story.
I feel like Avion actually does that with their water, probably.
You know, and here we are now. We've got 50 different types of water.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is water.
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
it's water, right?
That's all it is. But, you know, funny things that happen. I can remember Ray Charles checking in to the Clarion Hotel in Baltimore. This particular hotel was right at Pier 5 in downtown Baltimore. A boutique hotel had about 50 rooms, semi-upscale, and they were in doing a promotion for the NAACP, of which Mary and I were invited to go to the concert, which was very good. And so Mr. Charles, he comes up to the front desk and with the gentleman that helps him get around. And, "Hi, I'm Ray Charles. And Mr. Charles, it's very nice to meet you. And I just want you to know that I have a beautiful room put aside for you with a magnificent view of the Chesapeake Bay." And so he walks away, and his handler kind of looks at me and goes, "Okay." And Ray Charles just goes, "You know, thank you, man." You know, so take him up to his room.
You didn't realize at that time?
Well, later, yeah. What was unusual, what he wanted was just a plain room with 2 double beds in it. The reason for that is one bed he would sleep in, The other bed, they would lay out his clothes in a clockwise fashion. His shirt was in the middle, his bow tie was off to the left, and so it was very regimented the way they did everything. So we went to the show that evening, and it was a fantastic show. And he's checking out the following morning, and he's walking across the lobby, and he says something to the gentleman helping him get to the tour bus. And, and he comes over. I ran out there. Mr. Charles, thank you so much for staying with us. He said, well, it's been our pleasure. You were very, very kind. And I said, well, thank you for the tickets and everything. And he gets about halfway down the hallway, and he turns around to me with the sunglasses on, going, by the way, he said, the view was fantastic. So
that'd be a great fit.
It was, and that's an absolute true story.
Yeah, and he probably felt pretty silly then.
And I think the simplicity of so many of these artists when they're not on stage and they are backstage and they're warming up and they're getting ready to go on in front of 10 or 15 or 20,000 people. I can remember James Taylor at Carowinds Palladium, and I'm walking back to my kitchen to see how the girls are doing getting lunch done, and I walk in there and there's James Taylor. He's wiping the dishes clean and putting them up in the cabinet, and I walk in there and I went, like this, and
you're like, what?
So he just kind of looks at me and smiles and walks out, and the girl said, well, thanks a lot, James, and Carolyn and the other gal were a little bit older and kind of didn't know everybody, and I said, that's James Taylor, and they said, well, they were just here to cook, and so they didn't realize who it was. And then James later on said to me, I said, golly, I'm a little embarrassed. He says, why not? He says, he says it feels like home here when we come, especially to the Carolinas. Yeah. And he says, I always appreciate what you guys do to make himself and his family, because at that time Livingston Taylor, his brother, would be there. A lot of his family members would be there, and they all looked like little clone James Taylors. They all had a long nose, and nobody needed a backstage pass because.
Doesn't he have a song where he mentions Carolina? Carolina on my mind. Is that wrong?
Yeah, no, and also the one song when he's talking about Sweet Baby James is actually when he is driving to see a nephew of his for the first time. That was ironically named James. So that's what the Sweet Baby James song is about.
Okay. That's cool.
I don't know if a lot of people know that at all, but it's true. I guess the whole thing is having the honor of working with so many different artists, and I still keep in touch. Mary and I were living in Baltimore, and James was playing a venue in Columbia, and so I called up my friend Wilson Howard from Live Nation, said, golly, it's sold out, can I get a couple tickets? And Wilson always so very gracious. So Mary and I get there, and we get these 2 ticket stubs. They didn't even look like tickets, and so here's your tickets, and we're walking, and we get to the front row right in front of the stage, and there's 2 folding chairs set up, and the lady said, well, this is where you're sitting. So I'm sitting in front of the VIP section, Mary and I, and James comes out and he just looks at Mary and I and goes, well, who do you guys know? So it's just very, very funny stories. But always, I think anything I ever did, catering, helping produce the shows, whatever it is like that, I always put my heart and soul into it, and always realized that that I was doing something very, very special. And that I was, for that one maybe 8 to 10 hours of their day, I was letting them lay back, doing what I need to do to produce a good show.
Well, that's great. Yeah. Well, this will be the end of part 1. We'll have more in this series, Raymond Barton Project. Thank you for your time, Ray. I appreciate it.
All right.